Coin drop. Screen flash. The high score. Boss laugh. Thumb sore. Same fight. Lost track of the time all night. Snacks gone. Eyes red. Still shouting one more.
Good Lord. Yeah, well, it's a podcast once again. I was going to start this joke of a podcast. I was going to start this podcast out by making fun of Silver. And she's not present.
She saw it coming and decided not to show up.
Coward.
Well, isn't the best time to make fun of somebody is behind their back?
Yeah.
But that's what I feel the hurt in their voice. You know?
The thing is, I make fun of you guys behind your back. I make fun of Silver to her face.
Yeah.
Then I say nice things behind her back, and it confuses her.
Good. It's the best thing to do to somebody. Keep them guessing. Never know what's going on.
We are, I think, at a train station.
Damn right.
Particularly wet one.
Yeah, it's funny because it doesn't loop perfectly, that there's just a puddle appears below Jason, and my internal dialogue is that he's weeing.
No, yeah.
Lack of bladder control.
Zombies. I'm keeping them away.
Yeah, well,
They're only
around.
coming from one direction, and you've got it covered.
Got it covered.
There's always the people on the right. Silver's now green, despite the slight glow to her character, but there's none of it.
It's okay.
We're here back for another episode of the Strike Gamers podcast. As always, an immense amount of things to talk about. The news never ends. It never ends, and
it's weird how that works.
Yeah. Well, there was a moment in the early 19th century, early 20th century, early 1900s, where they had a bit of news where it was like all of the news has happened, nothing important happened today, which wasn't true. That they just had nothing to share.
Yeah. I got nothing for you, pal, but we still got to sell the paper.
Chat says must be in New York City because Mamdani has let base pipe maintenance go to crap. Maybe so. I mean, it is a fictional city, but your witty political commentary has gone noticed. I've been attempting to gaslight Chance constantly on Instagram about how gay he is.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's working, I think. He's second guessing his sexuality and life choices, which is what my goal is.
Oh, that's good. It's a good goal. It's a good goal to have.
Yeah, that's right. Nothing you can do about it either. So if you can't tell from the thumbnail, so I was torn between a few different topics on what to discuss, but ultimately it comes down to me because I'm the only one who cares about this podcast. And I thought I would sit down and talk about Chance says, problem is that I am rarely on Instagram. Well, you're also rarely straight, sir.
True. These are facts. I've heard them from one source.
A reliable source. Me.
Reliable, true source.
Super accurate. So there's been a few bits of news, and the one I settled on is sort of opens up to a general discussion about the state of comic books at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And it starts out with a interview that Jim Lee had. Now, if you don't know who Jim Lee is, Jim Lee was originally a huge player in Marvel,
right.
Who there was a time in comic books in like the 90s where comic book artists were basically rock stars.
Seriously.
They were swarmed. They would go to signings. There would be people down the street. Like, I can't tell you how ridiculously popular comic book artists were at the height of comics before the market crashed and it was really stupid.
Mhm.
And Jim Lee, as well as a bunch of other comic book artists, formed their own comic book company because they wanted more personal control to tell the stories they want to, and blah blah blah. And it's like they're the Rolling Stones or whatever, and they can do what they want to. It's Imagine Comics. And that comic book company ended up doing McFarlane's Spawn. They did The
Okay.
Walking Dead. They did Invincible. They did a lot of different stuff. And Jim Lee was a part of
Track
it.
record.
Right. And Jim Lee was a part of it. And Jim Lee was there for a while. And after disagreements between a bunch of people, he left the indie comic book environment and ended up leaving to DC. And he's currently the creative director of DC Comics.
Okay.
So, I mean,
okay.
and good for him.
Sure.
Yeah.
But there's been some criticism about how he's managed things during COVID. Instead of releasing new and great stuff, he released an art book of the art he has done.
Okay.
And Jim Lee, if I recall, was the one that got a lot of criticism for his Captain America with the giant chest.
Oh, that him? Oh my
Yeah.
god, even I know that.
Yeah. And it's like, look, there's art he's done I like, but whatever. Anyway, being the head of DC and sort of structured with comic books. Actually, let me at least lay some groundwork for you. If you're listening to this nerdy podcast and you're rolling your eyes at comic books, I don't know why you're listening to a nerdy podcast, but let's set that aside. Comic books are part of America's mythology. They are the Iliad and the Odyssey for Americans. They are part of the mythos of storytelling and whatnot. Comic books are what set up a lot of storytelling that existed in other forms down the road. Comic books are what created the Marvel Universe with the biggest movies of all time showing up on your screen. So if you're a big fan of Iron Man, it all started with comic books. And comics were always meant to be cheap for children initially.
Yeah.
Or for young men. Like, believe it or not, prior to the advent of Marvel and DC, things like pulp comics and stuff were actually very popular nationwide, so it wasn't really restricted to just children. But they're meant to be very cheap, which is why they were
Right.
loose staple paper, which is why some of the best comics, the oldest comics, haven't survived. It's because
Right.
they're loose
They
pieces.
never were meant to.
Right, they're not. They're meant to be throwaway little fun stories. That's sort of the origin of where we get comics. And Jim Lee's involvement here is at the highest level in DC, at the decline of the comic book industry. Okay.
Well, one thing that I wanted to touch on really quickly was your use of the word pulp. It literally comes from the fact that they used like the cheapest paper they could get to make these comics.
Yes. Chance says when comics got to $5 an issue, I dipped out. $5 was too much for a kid, even a young guy.
Yeah.
I was like, and I wanted to read Spider-Man and Batman and stuff. It's just, you get to $5 for what amounts to half an advertisement and then a little bit of a story, and you don't get the full story. And they're just taking advantage of the fact that people were dedicated to this stuff and were willing to fork out the money. And as prices went up, and we have to have full color. And it's like, you don't always necessarily have to have full glossy color. Regardless.
They used to have 3 or 4 panel Spider-Man comics every day in the newspaper.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a thing. Regardless of all of this, I want at least a bit of a groundwork established so we can talk about Jim Lee and the commentary he had with the comic book industry. I don't know why. Let's see.
Yeah, it's interesting now that since the advent of comics, and we've gotten into, like you said, the golden age and all that stuff, and we're really seeing the decline of comics right now. How people have really gotten into the whole collector's aspect of comics because of things like Amazing Comics Volume, or whatever, #1 or whatever it is, where you have the introduction of Superman or whoever it happened to be, and just the way now that they've really gone maybe overboard on a lot of this stuff, where you've got variant covers and people are not even opening the comics. I mean, I remember when the Death of Superman hit, my friend's dad went out and bought the Death of Superman, and they put it away. Nobody was allowed to touch it. Nobody's allowed to read it. It was put in a drawer.
And all these criticisms are fair. If you haven't listened to the podcast enough, we tend to open up topics and go a little bit too meta sometimes. I would like to focus on specifically what he's talking about and the issues of the comic book industry today. Chance has a comment. It's crazy how comics and toys were once the domain of children and now both are adult-oriented industries by and large. Well, there's a few reasons. Pricing out. Because only adults can do it. You'll find with a lot of hobbies, adults that are into were stuff that they couldn't afford as a kid. And so they can afford it now and they're buying it up. I mean, the blow up of Pokemon prices, kids can't afford this. They can't.
No.
And it's not a child practice. I sold a bunch of Dragon Ball Z cards recently. It was adults that were interested. Very expensive, high-end Dragon Ball Z cards from the game. And the guy was asking me, he's like, "Oh, well, do you collect and stuff?" I was like, "No, I played the game. I bought these.
Battle-tested cards, bud."
Well, I had a guy who was like, "Well, where'd you get it?" And I was like, "I opened them when I bought the decks at the time." Like,
oh,
I know what you're confused about, but that's how I got these cards, is I opened them at the time. And I was like, "Do you play it?" And he's like, "No, I just collect it." And I was like, "Well, that's weird."
that's really weird.
It is.
I mean,
That is
because that implies he never played it. Because if I had, like, let's say it was you buying this stuff and somebody asked you that, you'd be like, "Well, I did when I was young and now I just collect it." But that implies he's never played it, ever.
No.
And it's
He
like,
just
what do
wants them.
Okay.
Yeah, so
That must
weird.
have been like talking to an alien from Mars.
Well, and look, I understand the rarity and value and all these sorts of things that creates a desire to buy lots of cards, and it creates this whole secondary market. It destroys long-term these hobbies. It destroys customizable card games because you have to be able to sit and play with the cards. It destroys the comic book industry because it prices out people, and then eventually you've got just regurgitated garbage, long-term like, there are huge issues, but let's address. Well, first, Chance has a comment. I still have multiple backed copies of Superman 75, and they're worthless outside of the giggle value. I didn't get the Superman where he died. I got the one afterwards, the white bagged one, and I opened it. And I remember a friend at the time being like, "You opened yours?" Because he had them. And I was like, "You opened yours?" I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, those would be collector's items." And this was during the time of comic books being huge in the 90s. And I was like, I opened it because I wanted to read it, because I wanted to know what happened. Not because I was obsessed and I wanted to turn this into Flip It years later and it'd be a huge amount of value. And that's what's so weird about the comic book industry, or at least these hobbies today, is they're not buying it for the love of it. They're buying it for the investment or whatever. And those who love it have been pushed out because of the industry. Once again, let's pivot back to the actual reason we're here, is Jim Lee's commentary. Okay, Jim Lee, DC Comics President, Chief Creative Officer and Publisher, spoke to Nikkei X Trend about his career, current trends, blah, 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 blah. Lee says Japanese storytelling and Asian content more broadly is booming because young people want to discover something that is uniquely their own, perhaps rather than just inherit current trends, and because of the nature of the stories compared to Western comics. Thus, this is a quote, "The stories told in Japanese manga and anime are incredibly powerful. I often find myself wondering what is missing in Western comics and why aren't they able to achieve the same flavor. Also, I think manga has an advantage over American comics, which are mostly about superheroes, and that's where the majority of sales and readers are concentrated. In Japan, it's closer to literature, and anyone can read it. And it's not just hero stories, there's a much wider range of genres, like stories about cooking and soccer. You can draw stories from that. So I'm very happy that manga has been so successful because it gives me a goal to aim for. The manga market is bigger than our industry, so the question becomes, what can we learn from this? Lee says that it's not just art style, but the sensibility of Japanese stories, and later adds, another thing to add is that in the West, comics and animation have been considered children's media. As people grow up, they move on to live action, but in Japan, that's not the case. Not only is there a wide range of genres, but adults also read manga and watch anime as a culture. Is an art that isn't limited to a specific group. All right, Jim. So
Okay.
I understand the tendency to sit and lament that manga is doing so much better than American comics, and that they have a lot less restriction because they can tell stories about anything they want to, and that all they can do is tell comic book stories. Here's the problem, and if you listen to a lot more of his commentary, he talks about how they have longer narratives that begin and end, as well as other grievances. This is a problem with you. It's not with them, and that they're able to do so much stuff. I understand that you're trapped in a universe of American comic book writing that is structured around, well, we have to sell these comics and stuff. Guess what? You can tell shorter stories about a character, and the story can begin and end. You don't have to write a story about a character that never dies and goes on forever. And in fact, you know what's part of the problem? Is you've created characters that you refuse to kill. That if you kill, they come back 5 minutes later, so there's no threat to the universe. And you might go, well, no, you were a part of this from the beginning, from the height of comic book industry. You are as much at fault as anybody else, Jim, for the situation you find yourself in, where you're like, well, we're trapped by this situation where they can write these concentrated stories that have a beginning and end. And you're in the situation where you can't kill some of the big main characters. And I was like, well, whose fault is that? That's not my fault. You've taken away the threat of death from your universe.
Yeah.
You know what you still can do in the universe you have right now? You can write a superhero that has an arc and dies. Right now. You can do that right now. And whose restriction is that? Is it ours? Is it the manga? Is it their fault because they've been more creative than you? And what I hear from this is the lack of creativity, the lack of ability to actually move beyond your constraints. Because he's looking at the manga, it's like, well, they could do all this stuff, and a wider range of people read it. And it's like, adults read your comics. In fact, I would say adults exclusively read hero comics. You don't think adults don't want more interesting content? You don't think adults don't want more adult-oriented stuff? And you might sit here and lament it. It's like, well, every time we try to create something new that's not Spider-Man or Batman or Superman, people don't like it. And it's like, well, here's the thing. That's because those comics suck, Jim. You write characters that are enraptured by current political nonsense, who are characterized by the fact that it's their identity, it's the intersectionality of the characters, and then you sit there and go, oh, well, I don't know why young people aren't into comics. It's pandering, and the comic book industry has already been destroyed by years of bad storytelling. And yet you're going to say, well, manga can do all this stuff that we can't do. It's like, what can they do exactly that you can't do? Guess what? You could tell a story about sports. You can write comics about sports. Yeah. You can do that. Yeah. And guess what? You can change up your format. They don't have to be paper comics. You could do little books like the manga do. You can do this. You know what you can do that would blow your mind? You could go find manga artists and collaborate with them and their writers and write a Spider-Man manga.
Oh, yeah.
And a full story arc with a beginning, middle, and an end. You can do these things, but you're going to sit here and lament, well, we're going to have to learn some stuff from manga. You were the biggest thing in town and you blew it. And this is what I find across multiple industries. They took for granted their audience, the people that consume their product, and they blew it. And now they're sitting here lamenting, we're no longer, nobody wants to read our stuff. Look how popular Japanese stuff is.
Yeah.
I could scream about this forever, but I'm going to bring in some commentary, and then I've got a bunch of other stuff to say. But.
Yeah, it's very, I don't know, and does he know about bande dessinée? Does he know about French comics? Because they make all sorts of things that are much closer to American sensibilities.
Yeah.
Westerns, sci-fi. They make Disney comics. And you know what's funny? I remember when we were going through my grandma's house, she had a lot of stuff from when my mother and my aunts were young, were kids. And you know what was in there in just droves? Was Disney comics. There was tons of them, and they were all well loved. Gone. I mean, have they made those in the last 20 years even? I don't know. They did in France.
They made them in the States. I think they still make them in Europe.
Yeah, they see. There you go. And it's just, I mean, Disney is American. Disney is arguably a vision of America, and yet we can't, two of the most American things, comics and Disney, we can't sell those here? Why?
Apparently Donald Duck is a long-running American series in France.
Yeah, that's so funny. And it's
in Italy too.
Why not here?
I have several comic books of Donald Duck as a superhero. They're all Italian. He fights crime. He puts on the mask and cape, and he's a Batman style. He's got the gadgets and all that kind of thing. So I've got maybe 20 issues or so.
See, and that's awesome. And what's funny is some of this stuff we did do, just not in the world of comics. I mean, we did this stuff with cartoons for kids, but we can't. Why not in comics? Why not keep this going in comics? I mean, not to get too far ahead, or I don't want to go off the beaten track here, but I don't know. I'll save it. I'll save that for later. But I'll let Jason mosey in.
Before we have a couple stupid comments from Chance. Chance goes, Spider-Man, Spider-Manga?
Wow.
You freaking child.
Quality.
And then he goes, so Darkwing Duck? Darkwing Duck is a different duck, sir. Get your ducks together.
How dare you?
Anyway.
It's definitely not Darkwing Duck. He has the blue and black color scheme. He doesn't have the big hat. He still has Donald's little sailor hat. Yeah. Anyway, so there's a couple things that I was thinking while you were going through his comments, and a couple of the things that jumped out to me was the fact that he's sitting there saying that, we can't do what the manga artists can do. I was like, well, why not? Why can't you?
See, that was my biggest grievance. He says, well, they could do all the stuff that we can do. It's like, what? Who says you can't do any of that?
Ain't you the boss? Ain't you the boss, pal?
Yeah.
Why not?
Because there's no problem with having a story, a Batman story, a Superman story that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's just a comic book arc. So what if you the next month you start a new Superman story? It doesn't have to connect backwards to the previous story. It can be its own self-contained story. There's nothing that says that we have to make sure that all of our comics are maintaining this continuity throughout. I mean, yes, you don't want to upset and give Superman powers in one comic and then take them away in another one. So there has to be that style of we've got to make sure that Superman's power set doesn't change or whatever. But there's nothing that says we can't have a story, tell a story, and then stop and then tell a new story.
Well,
But,
they're constrained by their industry. But yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The other thing that I was thinking was that, as you said, they've done this to themselves. There's no reason why I, as a comic book fan when I was a little kid, wouldn't then carry that comic book fandom to my children. You know, I'm an adult. My children may not be able to buy the comics because you've priced them out of the industry. But as an adult, I still like comics. I can still buy comics and I can give them to my kids. But you've made that almost impossible for me because I don't want to infect them with your ick. You know what I mean? Every time you release something, it's like, ew, ick. I don't want to read that. Why would I want my kids to read that? Tell a good freaking story. I'll read it. So will my kids. You're the one that's saying we can't do this. Well, yes, you can, and you did it, but you did it to yourself.
These are fair points. One thing we tend to diatribe is go on the greater issues of a lot of these things happen. I want to address specifically what he's saying. And when it comes to storytelling, look, I understand he's in an industry where comic book superheroes have sort of gone down this road of you can't change them. When you change the lore, people get upset. And you can't write certain stories because the people don't like the stories that you write. First of all, I would say that you lack creativity and the ability to create interesting stories. You just do. I've heard people sit there. Who was it that James Gunn who said all the stories that you can tell about Batman have been told? I was like, horseshit. What do you? All the stories about Batman have been told. Nonsense.
Can you imagine if that had been the attitude when they were making the Arkham Asylum games?
Yeah.
Well, we can't. It's already been done. Everything's been done. It's like, well, no, not really. As is evidenced by those games, frankly. And you know what? Sometimes it's good to give the people what they want, but that's a whole other discussion. But like you can make up something new. Why not?
Yeah. There's nothing constraining you except for the fact that you've established a world of expectation. Well, these are the superheroes that work, these that don't. And look, I get it. You've tried to write new superheroes and get them to work, and then they crash and fail. And the only ones people want to read are the Spider-Man, the Batman, the Superman, your established heroes. And every time you try and write a new hero, they don't work.
Why is that?
Well, sure. Before we get there, and I understand this with your bad heroes that you're not doing, and then you try and piggyback those new heroes on established heroes, and then try and steal their mojo. You went through a huge era in Marvel where nearly every character was stealing a gimmick from another one.
Yeah.
Thor was now female Thor. Iron Man was now Ironheart. The Incredible Hulk was now Korean. And Spider-Man is now a black Spider-Man. You lack the ability to create original characters, and you just steal the gimmicks from other characters. And yet I can still hear your voice in the background. We tried to make new characters, and they didn't like it. Well, it's because your characters are bad. And guess what? You don't live or die on the gimmick. You live or die on the storytelling. Write a story that's a lot humbler and a lot more basic and tell a good story. And guess what? One of the biggest flaws of the comic book industry is the format itself. Comics are too expensive. Yes. They're just they're half advertisements and they're too expensive. Yeah, but tradition, who cares at this point?
Yeah, you want industry or tradition?
Yes, right. Black and white little books like Manga.
Yeah.
Sell those. Get those characters established. Sell good stories. You were going to intervene there, Ross.
Oh, it's just like, I mean, like, would you rather have an industry or tradition? And on top of that, like, I mean, there's another aspect of it too, and they know they do this on occasion, but like, there's like, how many different Batmans are there like a year? Because I know right now there's like what are they
Absolute
called?
Batman's the big one. Yeah,
then there's like
that's the only
Batman.
comic sailing right now is Absolute Batman.
Right, and it's like you make your lines confusing. The stories are like convoluted and like because you keep either resetting, depending on the company, because I know there's differences, like on how they operate with this sort of thing. But like either you keep resetting or you keep like if somebody comes to you, thankfully there's a couple of good books that if somebody's like, hey, I want to read Batman, what do I go with? And Rhett, what do you tell them?
Dark Halloween,
Yeah.
Long Halloween, and then there was the
Like Dark Knight Returns.
Dark Knight Returns, and there was a bunch
Yeah,
of comics.
and thank God those
Batman
good books
Year
are there
One.
that are like like full complete stories. Like thank God, because otherwise, can you imagine trying to get into this shit now?
No.
Oh my gosh, just the worst.
Yeah.
And like that's another aspect of it too. Like maybe especially because so many stories have been uncompleted and like peter out after a while. Maybe you get like a whole arc in a book, and you can sell the bigger book if you're like too like not sure that it's going to work. You know what I mean? Like there's a million different ways you can try and sell these things that they're just not doing.
I think some of it also is it seems that they're not planning very well.
No, I don't think so.
I could be completely wrong about that, but I'm thinking that they're taking cues from movies and they don't have the full plot worked out from the beginning. And so when it gets to the end, it's like it peters out because there was poor planning in the story process.
Kinda. I can tell you how it is going right now. But to read Chance's comments really quickly, he says you could write a story about Superman that farts cheeseburgers, whose only weakness is pencil shavings. Jim, literally nothing is stopping you. Shaking my head. You're absolutely right. The creativity is actually infinite. There's nothing stopping you from the type of stories you can create. Sure, it's going to sound like, hey, a heroic story where you fight a bad guy is going to sound like, well, we've heard this before. Yeah, but you can make it interesting. You don't even have to have a spin, like a Shyamalan spin on it. You can just you can just create a good, well-written story. Guess what? The most basic story of a hero trying to stop a villain, if well-written, can be better than some of the most complex stories written out there. And Chance says what he means is he can't do it. And makes pile of money. All entertainment becomes formulaic. You're not wrong. You're not wrong that he can't do it. And that's the problem is he can't do it.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is he's top dog, right? He doesn't need to do it. He's got people to do it, but he's hiring the wrong people.
Well, and they went through I know it's a meme to be like, oh, woke, but the woke era had a huge influence on storytelling.
Yeah.
Everybody from the top down told them that this is where young people are going. They hugely care about identity politics and intersectionality. And then that infected itself in all of these forms of media. But the problem is what they were told wasn't true. And that infection just got, it killed a lot of companies because they were told by middle managers and people looking at social media that this is the direction that the culture is going and we need to get on board. Young people hugely care about LGBTQ issues, and then they infect it into the comic books, whether you agree with it or not. And then the people who read those comics flee because they don't want to see their characters involved in these things. We got invested in characters like Tim Drake, who had been straight for decades and is suddenly gay. And it's like, so I'm supposed to stay committed to your universe, especially when I'm not involved in those politics. And it's like, well, what you could do is you could write a gay character and make them really interesting, give them an interesting story. Well, nobody wants to read that. So your solution is to destroy already established characters. That's your solution. Right. Because no one's interested, so we're going to retroactively ruin characters that people are already reading. And all that succeeds in doing is people fleeing those comics. You need to take established characters seriously. Understand that their lore matters to fans of those comics. And when you ruin it, when you disrespect the lore, they leave. They walk away. And this is what we've established now. Is a fleeing fan base. And I don't want to make the meta argument, but you will see this repeated in other industries where you disrespect the industry and then they just walk away. Here's one thing I would like to point out, though. Well, comic books, we have this problem where everybody just expects the same stories over and over again and it gets boring. And have you read manga? Have you? Do you know what's one of the stupidest problems in manga? They do
Isekai?
the same thing over and over and over again. My lord, the amount of times I've run into isekais where it's become such a trope that even the characters comment, hey, it's like I've been reborn into a world like one of those manga I read. They even know it's a trope in the world that they're born into. Manga has gotten so formulaic that they find a trend like, hey, you've been taken into a real video game, and if you die in the video game, you die for real. And then we get 40 versions of that because that becomes super hype. And then the isekai becomes really attractive, and then we get 40 versions of isekai that are all slightly different. Here's one where you're reborn as a hero, and you get kicked out of the hero's party, and then you try and become a farmer. And here's one where you get reborn and you're a farmer and you become the greatest farmer ever. And then here's one where you're reborn and you raise slimes. And here's one where you're reborn and you become a slime. And here's one where you're reborn and everybody hates you, and then you hate everybody else, and then you leave, and then they want you back because actually you're really important. And then I've just watched a mediocre to bad an anime where the isekai was he got born into a new world, and kind of the funny gimmick was he was like abnormally taller than everybody in the universe. He's like 7 feet tall compared to everybody else. And people run into it and go, "Oh, you're really tall," and it made me giggle because it's like it's something, it's different, I guess, but the formulaic regurgitating. I understand that there are trends in the market. That what people want to see is they love that type of storytelling, and then they flood to that type of storytelling.
Mhm.
Isekais are super hot right now. Are they kind of boring? Yes, but they're super hot right now. Guess what also exists in anime and manga? Interesting, weird stories, because they're not afraid to try and write something new and interesting. And there's actually a what's really healthy with manga is there's actually developmental period where it starts out and it shows up in like Shonen Jump or that sort of thing, and then it gets
Yeah.
kind of an audience, and then maybe it'll go green light for maybe one book, and if there's enough sales, then that book might carry to another book, and then if there are enough books, because the sales stay consistent, then maybe it gets turned into an anime. And that there is trial period and gradualization. Whereas in Marvel, it's like, here's a person we hired just from college who has blue hair and has an agenda and is a big activist and wants to change the universe to her political agenda. We're going to give her a comic that's going to run 5-10 issues and get canceled because everyone hates it. And it's like, what a waste of time and money. There should at least be a degree of graduating from one to another, where you can start out as something and then grow from there. I know we're talking about manga at the moment, but I would like to address, I brought up with Jason sort of the storytelling aspect. It used to be where you would have like a year long of stories in American comics with superheroes. And then near the end of maybe once a year, there was a big event where all of the heroes sort of had to deal with a big, massive threat. But with the dump of the industry, what has essentially occurred is instead of the big yearly threat, it's become like a quarterly, where they're constantly dealing with end of the world scenarios, because those end of the world scenarios give you bumps in the comic books, give you bumps in sales. So it's not that they're not planning, it's just they're now throwing everything at the wall. Everything at the wall. You have an end of the world scenario 5 times a year in American comic books, and it's really stupid.
Well, what I wanted to, so from that, one of the things that becomes apparent, that is an issue, is that they're no longer making their sales, and so they're desperate to make sales. So they're sitting there saying, well, what is it that makes us get sales? It's these world ending things. If they were telling good stories along the way, they wouldn't need to do it 4 times, 5 times a year. They could do it once per year, like they had been doing, because that was actually sustainable at one time. They told good stories. People bought the comic books. It was sustaining them. They got a boost when they got to the world-ending event for the year, sure, but they don't need to do that. They do now because they're really telling these stories poorly. They're trying to uh, make sure that politics rather than entertainment is front and center, and instead of drawing people in, they just keep pushing them away. Especially when they say things like, "Well, it's not for you," or "If you don't like it, go touch grass," or you know, only real fans would XYZ. All of these things are like, well, fine. If you don't want my money, I'll take it somewhere else.
Well, and it's not just, I mean, the politics has been a huge part of it. It's not just the
Yeah.
politics. It is the
But what I'm-
issue of when they write a story.
quality-
So, for example, with Spider-Man, you would have a long-running established familiarity with the character. His street-level
Mhm.
adventures, the things he does, all of these sort of backfill of character development.
Right.
And now, if you're a new reader, you jump in and Spider-Man's going through the most dramatic, ridiculous, life-changing event ever, and you don't have the backfill of established lore
Nope.
to hold up the character. You're just running into, they're constantly destroying him every time you run into a new little event for the character or a new bigger event for the character. Like, he just recently went through him and Mary Jane are no longer married. She married a new guy,
Right.
and they have a kid. Or before that, Spider-Man disappeared, and Dr. Octopus took his body and was running around as the Spectacular Spider-Man, or whatever. And it's like, what are you doing to this poor guy?
Yeah.
Like, and I can't, if you don't character build, if you don't world build, and then you constantly run through one momentous event after the other, then the characters, there's nothing to build off of. And so how am I supposed to jump in partway into something that's destroying the character of Peter Parker when I haven't read the huge backstory? And there's an assumption that you have. This is not
Right.
encouraging new people to join. This is really scaring away old people from continuing and reading it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of that goes back to the storytelling aspect, where they can't tell good stories anymore. And because they can't, it's like the creativity for them has fallen off a cliff, and because they can't tell creative stories, they're focusing on the wrong aspect of the comic to put that front and center because they're creatively bankrupt, and they're giving us garbage instead, and we're going away in droves. And so in order to try to win us back, they're having these big events, but these big events don't bring in repeat customers.
They just
Otherwise-
give you little spikes on the numbers.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all. They're
But
giving
in the
us
long
hope.
term,
That's all.
it's destroying the established fans. Sorry, Ross, you were
Mhm.
going to jump in here.
Oh no, I was just and tell me if is it a. I just wanted to mention the like where comics are sold. Is it all right if I bring that up now, or should I hold off?
Go for it. I would
Well-
like to pivot back to the manga situation, but go for it.
You bet. Well, because it ties in with manga. Like, I can go to Barnes and Nobles and buy manga. It's a huge section now. Big.
Mhm.
They
Yeah.
sell manga at Walmart.
Yep.
You know what they don't sell at either of those places?
Comic
Comic books.
Yeah, unless it's a big omnibus, they'll sell those. But like,
Yeah, they'll sell the graphic novels, the collection.
but anything no, they don't do that. And it's like they've, because I've heard from other people that like they like pigeonhole themselves into this way of distributing their product that in the long term hurt it. I mean, before, probably like when I was a very, very small child and before that, you could get comic books at the 7-Eleven, the grocery store, but that all went away for like certain kinds of distribution methods, i.e. very specific comic distributors and then comic shops. And I mean, they've completely shot themselves in the foot. Why would you do that? Meanwhile, I mean, literally, look, the things that sell right now that are like bound books are like manga and smut. And I can buy both of those at Walmart. So it's just baffling to me that they've pigeonholed themselves this way. Whereas manga, they'll sell it to you any way you want it. And I mean, look at gaming. What if gaming had decided, no, only GameStop? You can only buy console games on GameStop, or even, God forbid, PC. But then, all of a sudden here comes Steam and just eats their lunch. And they act like, well, what happened? Yeah, well, I wonder what happened.
Well, Diamond did go out of business.
Yeah. Shocking it took that long. Anyway, I'm sorry. I just wanted to mention
no,
because it's really fascinating to me. It's like, because every other industry, they want to, get it as many places as you can, but not this one.
Well, despite the repetitiveness and the regurgitating the same story and over again. I mean, I am so sick of hearing about the Demon King. I am sick of it. How many times do I got to run into a new story where it's like, the Demon King's a bad guy, or maybe the Demon King is misunderstood, or maybe I work for the Demon King as a middle manager.
Maybe the Demon King's hot.
Maybe the Demon King is hot. Maybe I'm gonna be the new Demon King. Huh? You think about that?
Maybe I was reincarnated as the new Demon King, and I'm trying to take this in a new direction so that the hero doesn't kill me.
I saw one where the Demon King was reincarnated into a new universe.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, shut up about the Demon King. Guess what? These sell because they're kind of new stories. Yep. They're decent. They're long form. Maybe people get into the art. Maybe get into some of the characters. Maybe young guys like, ooh, the girls are hot in this one or whatever. And a lot of the storytelling. Here's one kicker that you might find. A lot of the storytelling in manga, especially, shonen, because they're specifically for young men, cater to young men. Because young men like stories about adventure, and they get to vicariously live through the characters in some sort of power fantasy of what if I was the most powerful and all the girls were into me. That's why harems are a thing in manga. Do you know who is not getting anything to cater to them whatsoever in American markets is young men. We've actively decided that we hate young men in this country. We don't tell them stories about adventures and action that get them to wonder about the type of person they want to be or heroics of any kind. We actively discourage it as toxic. And I understand we're not an actively political podcast, but you might think to yourself, why are young men not reading this? It's because you both made it not for them anymore, and then what you did make has been browbeating them. Guess what Japan understands? There is a huge market of young men that want to read these stories. Guess what we're now addicted to? TikTok. Do you know what's that? You know who that is good for? Nobody. And that's not going to... And having a bunch of messed up young men who don't understand their place in the world, who don't have established stories about heroics and the type of person they might want to be, who have issues with regulating their emotions, that's not good for young men, and that's not good for everybody. That's not good for young women. That's not good for the rest of the country, is young men who are so torn and messed up and can't, don't know their place in the world. It is healthy to tell these type of stories because it helps young men realize, hey, these are the types of heroics. And by and large, these types of things are built for young men. And we went through such a weird period of time when we decided gendered things are stupid. And we need to take all of the stuff that young men love and make it more for the women. And then just destroy the gendered aspect. Japan understands young girls like the romance manga. They do. Yep. And they're very, very, very popular. Young men like the action and adventure. They like imagine why something like an isekai is attractive. And I'm sorry I'm using words. If you're listening to this, you're going, I don't know what an isekai is. An isekai is when a character usually dies in their normal world. Like maybe he's living in Tokyo or something. He dies. A normal businessman or college student or high school student dies and then wakes up in another universe as a new person. Imagine how attractive that is in a world where your life is miserable, nothing's going anywhere. the fantasy of starting
Not
again
just
as a better person who's stronger, more capable. The fantasy of starting again and not trapped by the past or beaten down by your life or even your bad choices. I mean, what an attractive proposition that is, the fantasy to start again. Young women reading stories about romance and falling in love with senpai and kissing him at the fireworks festival. like it's such a trope, but it's true. And why do they read it over and over again? Because they don't let go of those fantasies. They don't let go of liking those things. You know what's not
well, not
catering to these things is American comics. They're not helping young men. They're telling them they're bad, and they're making those comics more for young women who don't read comics. And then everybody hates the comics. Japan hasn't gone through this weird brain rot. Believe it or not, there are Japanese homosexual stories, and homosexuals read them. But it's at the front. This is the type of story I'm telling, and this is why it is what it is. And you can pick and choose the type of story you have. There's so much available because they understand their audiences. There is enough of an audience that want to read the homosexual romance stories, and that's fine. What you don't do is try and ham-fist it into every single thing you do. And I think one of the biggest problems in American comics is they are actively destroying their own audiences. They're browbeating the audience that should love their stuff. Young boys are telling them stories that they're bad, or they're telling them stories that aren't attractive to them. And then they're pricing these things too damn high so that young men don't want to buy them. $5 plus for what amounts to 5 pages of an incomplete story and half an ad. Well, what kind of thing is that to buy? In a manga, I get a book with a lot of engaging art and a lot of story. Well, like, this is your fault. This is the comic book industry's fault. And looking around shocked that things aren't working, you can change it now. You're in charge now, Jim. You can fix these problems. You can tell different stories. You can tell different types of stories. You can present comic books shockingly in a different format. You can do all of these things, but what you can't do is have excuses. That's something you can't have because you're in charge, dude. Sorry, I was getting all heated. The comments on the manga and stuff.
Well, there's a couple things that I wanted to say. One thing, you mentioned that they have, homosexual comics, and they have romance comics, and they have action comics, and they have all these manga, I should say, not comics, manga. The thing is they don't expect the people who are fans of the action comics to be fans of the romance comics, to be fans of the homosexual manga. They each have their own niche, and they're not trying to twist the story to fit in a different niche. They know that the women prefer the romance manga, so they give them that. They know that boys and men prefer the action manga, so they give them that. That there's not this thing where it's like you said, where we have to shoehorn something in where it doesn't belong. It's, you want to do that story? Fine. Here's where we do it. You want to do that story? Fine. Here's where we do that story. And they're different places, and they totally expect that the audience in each of those places to be different. Now, sure, there might be some overlap. There may be some girls who are into romance manga.
Hey, sometimes I think senpai might notice me.
Yeah. It could be that they have those girls who are fans of romance and action. There could be boys who are fans of action, but they also happen to be homosexual, so they're also attracted to that. But they don't sit there and try to mash them together. They're like, this is this one, this is this one, this is this one, and whoever wants to can go to whatever one they want to go to.
Nah, mash it.
Now, one of the things that he talked about, where they were bringing in new characters, and they were saying that the comic readers were rejecting the new characters. Well, the reason that we come to your comics is for your flagship characters. You've established that that's what you do, that's who you're going to provide us with. And so it's going to be confusing to us if you're suddenly saying, okay, we no longer are going to cater to you. We now have these new characters and you must love them. Why? There is no buildup here. You've just decreed that I am now a fan of this particular character. Why should I be? You have a pedigree, and I realize that you're lamenting the fact that you have this pedigree, but you have a pedigree, and and you've built that up over years. It's not something that you just throw away. Now, I get it that you're feeling stifled, but as we said, there's nothing that says that you can't introduce a new character a little bit at a time and build it. You just want to go from 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds without giving it any time for build-up.
Well, and to be
Or
fair,
you're trying to piggyback off of somebody else that we would rather see anyway.
well, to be fair, there's no sort of testing ground for these things that manga has. There's
true.
no testing it out in the waters, growing a fan base, then building a book, and then moving on to more books, and then moving on to an anime. In comic books, it's just like a shotgun of like, hey, we're going to put all of our weight behind this character that people may just hate.
Right. But the thing is that there is a way for them to do this. They could introduce a new character into an established comic. Now, I get it that we don't necessarily like that, because what they do is they try to make it so that that character overshadows whoever we were there to see to begin with. But you can start introducing that character in different team ups, like keep them as a more of a sidekick role, not I'm better than this superhero that you've been coming to see.
To be
and
fair,
I'm gonna prove
Jason,
it.
they do that a lot.
I know.
A lot. That's pretty much the standard of how they introduce characters, by pigging them back on other stuff. I'm
Right.
not saying it's going to be easy, but you have to take your audience seriously, and
Yes.
treat your characters seriously, and grow them, and as you grow a character who you're trying to gain interest in, not do stupid things or ruin the character or ruin the lore or disrespect it's like, why put in all this effort to build up characters that you're just going to throw under a bus at some point?
Right. But the thing is that we have like Kamala Khan, and we have Miles Morales, and all these other ones that they've tried to foist off onto us. If they had introduced them in, like, here we have this character who happens to get involved. It's still a Spider-Man comic. Spider-Man is still the main character. They're just helping out. They can slowly build that, and they can say, okay, well, now we're going to put that character into a Hulk comic, not shoehorn it, but the person gets involved. They don't try to take over Hulk's comic. They try to help out. They play that sidekick role, and over the years they build up that until they can get their own line and everything like that. But they don't want to do that. They want to go from
Jason.
here's
They
this
do
new
this.
character.
They
Boom.
do this all the time.
Yeah.
That's how they introduce new characters, is they piggyback into other characters' stories.
Right, but what I'm saying is they don't piggyback them with the build-up that this is a years in the making project. They do it as in we're piggybacking so we can supplant the character, like we had the Thor with
That's fair.
Jane Foster becoming Thor.
That's
They
fair.
want to go from here's the new character into you must love this character. Not in a few years, we'll give it time. We'll let the audience see how they react to it. If they like these comics where we're introducing this character and the other, and there's an uptick in purchase whenever this character appears, then maybe we can parlay that into its own line. But they don't want to do that. They don't want to wait for that. They want it to go from here, we're piggybacking it, and now it's your most favorite thing over Spider-Man or over Avengers or over these pre-established characters that have existed for years.
I think you have a point where they don't play long term. That a lot of it is a lack of patience of waiting to build characters. All of your suggestions, they do all of the time. It's a constant thing. They're trying to introduce these characters. And I think why manga serves so much better is if manga were to do it, it would be try small by itself, slowly build up, as opposed to in comic books, it's almost like, here's our character. It's almost like dictated as opposed to organic. Here's our character. Exactly. We're going to build this. This is one that's going to be hyped. And even if they put money behind it and they put time behind it and whatnot, this is the one they chose that people want to be popular. Where, as opposed to manga, it's like these individual stories organically grow based on popularity. The problem with the American way of doing things is a lot of the time those characters aren't popular. I mean, Kamala Khan's a good example. She was built specifically said to be a replacement for Spider-Man, to be a new Spider-Man character. And so instead of making a character who grows organically, that people get behind and slowly expands and maybe gets more, and there's a testing of the water, she's sort of imposed on the group and dictated to the audience, and then everybody hates them. They did all of she appeared in other comics and whatnot. When they had her death, she died in a Spider-Man comic because nobody read Kamala Khan's comics.
Nobody read hers, yeah.
I mean, your suggestions aren't bad. They do that all of the time. And I think there is a benefit that manga has of the gradual growth of the popularity, which becomes more organic. Believe it or not, there is a lot of failures in manga. But most of the time, they fail at the start, at the early stages, and they don't get very far. And some manga books sort of drag on for years with just enough audience to keep the thing going, and it never grows into maybe an anime or something. And that's also fun.
Right.
But at least there's a testing ground. There's a growth that comic book simply doesn't have. And maybe there should be a rethinking of the industry, that the way they're doing it is not going to work.
And my point mostly was that while they do those things where they put the characters, they introduce them in other comics, they don't just come out. Their problem is that they expect to go from absolutely no support whatsoever to full on support, and I'm now leaving my favorite comic book characters behind, and this new one that you've introduced is my favorite.
Yeah,
if they wanted to make Kamala Khan a replacement for Spider-Man, they could have. It wouldn't have happened overnight. It would have been like a decades-long project.
I don't think it. Well, they don't have the patience for that.
I'm not saying it would have.
I don't think anyone would have liked her. She's not a character.
No.
She's not a character that's going to be a big seller. She's just not.
No. But I'm just saying that if they had the long-term approach to this, where it's like, sure, we'll do the normal things that we do, but we don't expect her to be super popular overnight. We expect her to grow her fan base a little at a time every year until eventually she's up there with Spider-Man in terms of popularity. But like you said, she's an unlikable character. She's a self-insert rather than an actual creatively based character. And so obviously there are huge problems with her character that aren't going to be fixed by the way that they've done it. But at the same time, if they decided to take this long-term approach, it could have translated into something that they wanted, as opposed to basically they sold a couple of comic books and then canceled her line altogether because nobody read it.
Well, you know what you almost need to do? You have to have a separate comic line that's maybe a bit longer than your average little flimsy papers, where you have like 5 unique stories in that comic of a few pages per character, and then you just keep introduce like new little stories in the universe of Marvel, and they don't always have to be introducing new character, but that's where you would do it. And then just make it interesting enough where they're small ground level. And you can also do like one of the little short stories is maybe a small story of Spider-Man helping a kid who's having trouble in school, or but small
Yeah.
individual stories, and that's where you can introduce. And guess what? If that character kind of sucks and people don't receive it, no skin off your back. It's a 5 tiny stories and a bit of a longer comic that they sell once a month.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
But
'Cause
it's
then
like-
you could get some experimental stuff out there, see how it goes. If people really like it, then you start investing more into more resources into that thing.
Yep.
But that's not what they do.
But I'm just stealing this from a sort of manga style. So like this shouldn't be a confusing setup, and you could just throw in a little Captain America story, a little Spider-Man, enough to get people to buy it so that they can be exposed to more
You're talking
of the
about
characters
Shonen
they
Jump.
love. Yes, essentially. But you do it in a short
Marvel could
comic book
totally do
format. Do it in a short comic book format. But once again, I am not the most brilliant person, and I understand the industry better than Jim Lee. But guess who? Jim Lee, who's embedded in the industry and has been there forever, who's a rock star, who's in charge of DC. Well, whatever you're doing ain't working. So maybe time's to shift the plan or do things. Ross, you've been quiet. What are you thinking?
Yeah, well, and I like, again, not the biggest comic fan, partially because they made the choice when I was a kid to not sell them where I have anything, like where I live out in the middle of nowhere. I grew up out in the middle of nowhere. I couldn't get comics, so I didn't get into them. And part of that's the choices they made. They made the choice to distribute them very small. And part of it, like, and it is just a reality of, like, they've had sales start dropping off, what, in the 90s, at least early thousands.
After
Yeah.
the crash, yeah.
Yeah, and all they've done is like, well, yeah, covers, different covers. See, collectors, you gotta, like, it's all like,
Yeah, that worked in the 90s.
yeah, and it did, but then they keep doing it, and they keep doing it, and they keep, and like Death of Superman. Well, that worked. Well, we're gonna keep doing it. We're gonna keep, like, they, and look, every industry does this to some degree, and the healthy ones learn to change. I mean, if they're real healthy, they avoid it to begin with. That's hard. I get that. But the healthy ones will go like, yeah, maybe we should try something else. Maybe we should start trying something else, even on a small scale. And they just don't seem to do that. And when they do try, it's with things that are a bad idea to begin with. I don't know. It's such a baffling industry. I just remember finding out in the midst of MCU mega money that there was like no crossover with the comics at all. And it's just like, like the choices you guys make are just terrible. Like, how do you not take these opportunities when they're handed to you on a silver platter? It's baffling. I mean, let alone creativity, you didn't need it. But on top of that, they aren't creative. They refuse to change things, and now here they are.
Well, you notice how Jim Lee makes the comment of, well, American, they could do all of these different type of stories because the Japanese readers are different and they want different things, and that American readers just aren't interested in those sorts of things. Essentially, what he suggested. I'm not trying to put words in his mouth.
Which is a complete.
Well, here's the thing. Do you know what's popular in America? Manga.
Yeah.
Look.
You know why manga is having such a boom? Because Americans are getting into it.
Well,
The world
and
is getting into it.
the American comic book industry is not serving the American public, the consumers. Look, just writing a comic that's maybe a bit more for an older crowd or even more adult doesn't mean that it has to be rife with excessive violence and edgelordy or even nudity or anything. But stories that are more traditional, that take their audiences seriously and not for granted, would go a shockingly long way.
Yeah.
And introducing these things, like there's nothing that says Marvel or DC, and DC in Jim Lee's case, that DC can't start publishing manga. Who says you can't do that? Manga that's maybe more for an American audience. But to be fair, making something more for the modern American audience is probably not going to get you money, because you're chasing an audience that just isn't. Why are we consuming manga? Is because they're telling stories you're not. They're telling fun adventure stories, or telling fun stories that you're not, and you're losing this game because of what you're doing. You're leaving money on the table because you can't understand that you don't understand your audience anymore, and you have no way to connect to your audience anymore. This is a failure top down in that industry, and you need to rethink how you approach it. You need to go top down and be like, you know what, we're going to do things different. We're gonna shift it, but whatever you got to do. What you're doing ain't working. And if I felt listening to him and reading his comments and stuff, there was a huge disconnect and misunderstanding about the inherent problems. It's almost like the problem of being inside an industry. You can't fairly look at it the way somebody standing outside of it can. As someone who loves superheroes and comic books, I haven't bought a superhero comic, at least remotely modern, for a decade or two now. Why? Because you ruined them. I hated the stories you were telling, and they were too expensive. And I walked away. And this shouldn't be surprising. Like, you should understand why you're losing long-term fans. Instead of just, well, we don't want those type of fans. I think you do. Famously, you had the Marvel writer, I can't remember what her name is, but people talking about how much they hate her stuff. And she goes, well, if you don't like my stories, don't read my book. And people chose not to read her book. That's what's so stupid about these audiences is it's the sort of indifferent mocking of like, well, whatever, if you don't like it, then take a hike. You desperately need those people to read your stuff. Why are you mocking the audience that you have? Well, we could live without you. You can't. You cannot live without them. No. Every time you try and tell different stories, you turn away your established audience, and those are the people who are keeping our lights on. Just to remind you what happened with the Marvel movies. They started to shift to the comics people weren't reading, and they thought that people were going to watch these movies, and they didn't. What happened in like every industry goes through these problems. Why do you sit here and scratch your chin and be like, why is manga doing well? Oh, come on. Are you so up your own butt that you can't understand what's happening here? Why manga is able to serve audiences better than American comic books? And manga, not just Japan. He says specifically, specifically for their audience, manga's popular everywhere.
Yeah.
I am interested in reading stuff from a culture that's not mine, because my culture sucks balls and they can't write anything.
Well, and can I just say, it's like alarming that we are in the year 2026 and the guy that runs DC is acting like he just now found out about manga. What the hell kind of like head of a company are you? Isn't that like one of the jobs of leadership of these companies is to see what the competition is doing? Is to understand what the competition even is? You know what I mean? Like, how is that?
Yeah.
What's this newfangled manga you speak of?
Yeah. Yeah. No wonder your industry's in the pisser. Like, are you joking? I just listen. If this was 2012, it would like okay, fair enough. You're like maybe a little late to the game because like manga isn't huge yet, but it's getting more popular. But like it would still be like all right, you just noticed? Wow. Like, how are you not? I mean, even just do you not care about the medium? How are you not just sampling this to begin with? Like, it's just there's so many questions that come to my mind about the quality of leadership. Like, no offense to Mr. Lee. Not like I don't mean to be rude, but like like I don't know. It's just so bizarre to me because if I look at it from like a corporate sense, it's like, well, how do you not care or like want to know exactly what, or at least fairly accurately, what the competition is up to, what they're doing, their numbers, blah 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 blah. And then, well, he was an artist. Okay, well then, from an artist's perspective, not that I'm much of an artist at all, but because I'm not. But whenever I like see artists of any kind, music or drawing, paint, whatever, when like video games, they they like to see what other people are doing because they like the medium. Well, apparently Jim Lee didn't care. Like, what? How are you not from either side of your reality, the artist or the corporate guy? How are you not understanding this? Like before 2025, 2026? Like,
To be
how?
fair,
How?
at least to some degree, he was probably very aware of manga, and this is his first coming to terms of, well, they're working for some reason and we're not. And it's like, really?
Well,
I
the thing
mean,
is that. Sorry, go ahead.
no,
Russell.
go ahead. Well, I was
So-
just gonna say, like, I hope it's just that, and not like, oh my god, because this comes off as, well, man, this new manga thing, huh? And it's like, new.
Who was it? Was it Zaslav or Bob Iger? It might have been Bob Iger, who basically was like, well, have you heard of these video games? And it's like, oh, come
God,
on.
yeah. Like, what? Yeah, your company's been involved with them forever. What are you talking about?
You know they're really hot right now.
I mean, it's like not to derail by any means, but like it's like when AEW was first getting their deal with Warner, and the people in charge of Warner didn't know that they used to have the big competition to WWE. And it's like, listen, even if you weren't a wrestling fan, you don't care. How do you not know the history of your company well enough to know that like you gave WWE a run for their money and like scared the shit out of them? Like, how do you not know this? How do you not know this before going into the meeting with the guy wanting to sell you wrestling on your TV? What? You didn't do any research? What the fuck?
Well, and you also ask questions as to the people in charge, like, how much do you really pay attention?
Yeah, like, oh my god. Like, I'm not saying you gotta be an expert in the booking or whatever, but like, you didn't going into a meeting, you didn't understand any of the history of this thing at all, or your company's history with it. I mean, again, just this one point, and I'll be done with this point. But Turner, before it was a cable station, when it was a super station, it was built on wrestling. Anyway, sorry, just baffling, just completely what incompetence.
Yeah, the fact that it feels like he's just discovered manga at this point, and it's like, well, it's been around for years. It's slowly built up its popularity in the United States to the point where it's overtaking American comic book sales. I'm not saying that you should have said, well, obviously we need to do something about manga, but they could have been learning from it all this time. It feels like, it's there. We all see it, but they just don't think that it's going to affect their industry at all. It's like, oh, it's comics from overseas. It's not going to impact the United States. It'll never get that big.
It's like the good times are going to roll forever attitude that a lot of these industries have had. What weird, confusing thing that expecting streaming to go on forever. And it's like, did you realize that spike was COVID and everybody had to watch TV? Anyway.
Yeah.
Just
Wouldn't let us do anything else, dang it.
Just confusing commentary from a guy in the industry that should have a lot more awareness of the position he's in. Well, I don't know why people are. What was it? They, I want to say it was Batman, that one of the heads in DC, they couldn't get any of their comics sold, and he was expressing his bafflement that the highest sold comic was reprints of the original Batman from like the beginning.
Oh yeah, it was a few years ago, huh? A few years ago.
And it's like,
Yeah,
you're confused at this? This should tell you that people hate the current stuff. Hate it.
Yep.
I don't know why this
Idiot.
is confusing to you.
Ugh, God.
Just print some new Action Comics 1 or whatever from when Superman shows up. It'll sell. You know what's not going to sell? Your recent stuff.
At all.
It's just, you don't understand your audience, and you're chasing an audience that doesn't like you. Blah, blah, blah. We've been over this. Anyway, that was the headliner for today. I was baffled at Jim Lee's commentary. I was like, what are you talking about? You could do all of this right now. You could tell these stories today. What are you talking about? All right, Jimothy. Jimmery.
Jimbo.
As I've slowly rejiggered everything, I've finally settled on something I'm happy with when it comes to New Stuff Intro.
New Stuff Online. This is the Distracted Gamers. Connecting you now.
Yeah, I like it. There's been a lot of deliberation on my end. It's like I'm just not quite there with the little news dump intro. I finally established it. Actually, I had this with the comic stuff earlier, but I'm going to throw it in here in my little border. So an odd thing has been happening with Absolute Batman. Absolute Batman is the most popular thing right now. It's more popular than any of the Spider-Man stuff, and Spider-Man's a more popular character than Batman. And just for some reason, everybody loves Absolute Batman. You might be like, well, you should read it. It's good. And it's like, one good comic run does not convince me to come walking back. And
Back?
Baby, come back.
It's just not a thing. So, do you know what's resulted in the success of Absolute Batman? A huge amount of comic book creators talking smack behind their backs and complaining about Absolute Batman being successful.
Oh, wow.
That's so funny.
Classy.
The claim is that basically they believe that the success of Absolute Batman is pulling viewers away from more indie or smaller comics. And I was like, when was that ever true?
Yeah.
It's not like there's a finite amount of money that...
Yeah. Doesn't a rising tide raise all boats or whatever?
Well, here's the thing. Technically, they've got over the numbers, and Absolute Batman's success has actually increased sales for everybody. But this is really just petty jealousy from
of course.
other people in the industry, which is really funny. But there's been just about a bunch of shit talking and stuff from Scott Snyder, who's in charge of Absolute Batman. So here's where it gets funnier. They're all in, I think it's a Substack, where they're all talking behind the scenes and pissing and moaning. Slack channel. I'm sorry, it's a Slack channel about Scott Snyder and how Absolute Batman sucks and that it's draining the rest of the company and they're getting more attention away from their stuff and blah, blah, blah. As opposed to write a better book, I guess would be the solution to that. So it's carried into it's carried into another drama, which is also really funny. People who know Scott, who are in that group, have been snitching on the back talk to Scott about what's been going on in the Slack channel. And so all of a sudden there's been this thing around the industry of people going, stop snitching on other creators for talking shit about Scott Snyder.
Beautiful.
He's not dad. You're not what do you mean snitching?
Don't tell teacher.
You're just a bunch of petty losers who can't write books anyone want to read. Stop snitching. Somebody made
hilarious.
Patrick Kindleton made a YouTube video. Kindleton made a YouTube video about stop snitching, and he is a comic book creator. Stop snitching on us talking in the background behind someone's back like a bunch of petty losers.
Don't tell teacher, damn it.
This is your industry, everybody. This is the people who are going to make comics successful once again.
There is
brilliant.
a certain amount of this feels like playground antics as opposed to the actions of adults. But at the same time, you people are so dumb.
Incredibly so.
I'm going to go through. Look, we're not a political podcast. You might have passionate points of view about political issues that happen all the time. We weigh in insofar as things get out of hand. We made a little video commenting on the assassination attempt with the Drumpfler, and it was like, I don't care if you like him. This is bad, but Setting politics aside. However, because it's infected pop culture everywhere, it should be pointed out that with the recent immigration drama happening nationally in America, commentary across the globe, a huge amount of celebrities have been crawling out and will not stop talking about ICE. And apparently Sundance has been just rampant with nothing but discussion about the ICE stuff and not actually the Sundance Film Festival and the films that are at Sundance Film Festival. And doing stuff like this, like, who's that? He's that fake Puerto Rican. What's his name?
Oh, Leguizamo?
Yeah, he had this whole diatribe about if you like ICE, don't watch my movies. Attitude like this is what has damaged these industries because you're actively just chasing people away from your industry.
Can I just say, John, sweetie, nobody watches your movies. They watch movies you're in.
That's fair. Giancarlo Esposito had awfully bad things to say that were poorly timed. What does this do? It creates drama for your industry. It creates drama that chases away people who might disagree with you. Culture shouldn't just be one political spectrum or another. If we can't have common things that we hold in common, like we all like Star Wars and maybe we disagree on certain things. If that can't exist, then your industry's going to still keep going down. I mean, Jennifer Lawrence had that reflection of, yeah, I don't think anyone cares what we have to say, and it's angering the audience. And it's like, I think you're right, Jennifer. I think you're absolutely right. And these are poor decisions. But yeah, apparently Sundance will not shut up about what's going on politically around the world. And if anything has shown me this is a bad decision long term, apparently Star Wars Celebration 2027 has been boycotted over the organizers' support of ICE. Like, what are you guys doing?
Oh my God.
Oh.
You're creating this world, and these are the conclusions that we're creating.
Smart. It's really smart.
Also, as a really quick aside, Stephen Colbert's ratings have collapsed to record lows before the show's near cancellation.
No.
It's nearing its cancellation. So wouldn't you think people who really support it are defenders of it, the show would gain viewers as it ends its run? But it's just losing as it ends its run. People just leaving.
Yeah,
Amazing.
It's a bad sign.
Well, when Ferguson's show was coming to an end, his viewership just kept going up because people wanted to see the end of the Ferguson show. But, Colbert is a transformational individual that everybody he's very political and half the country doesn't like him and half of them do. And that's why his ratings are struggling, because you're not actually getting viewership from a huge amount of people. You're narrowing it to a smaller group of people. Oh, well, that's why your show is not doing well. It's shocking.
Weird.
Let's get back to more established news. So here was the other big bit of news that I considered to be the big discussion, but I didn't know huge amounts of information about it, just sort of a bunch of different stuff I've seen. So I didn't have a massive rant or discussion behind me, but it should be pointed out that there's a lot of drama surrounding, was it Google Genie 3? And my lord, dude.
Oh, yeah. I've even seen this.
So if you're not aware of Google Genie 3, it is an AI that's been developed that allows you to type in prompts, much like AI creates video or images or whatever to cater to what you're trying to get it to do. It essentially generates in AI the video game, and you can control it. And there have been people recreating like Grand Theft Auto in Greenland. There have been people who have been doing new, different kinds of Zelda games. And this coming out has actually dropped a lot of the gaming industry stock. Just so you know.
Oh.
This is having a cascading effect down the market. And there's a lot of fear this is going to change or superimpose itself on things. And you might go, well, how can it develop it in place? Well, just to remind you how AI works, if you're not aware. If you say, create a picture of a girl eating ice cream, it doesn't generate much like a CGI would, where it is generating the image through a lot of artistic creation and creating the 3D effects and stuff. What essentially it's doing is it's looking at millions upon millions of examples of a girl eating ice cream, and then it's approximating that image of a girl eating ice cream. Much like when you might go, hey Ross, think of a dog running in a park. You don't come up with specific image. You sort of coagulate a bunch of the different visions of what you have seen to approximate what a dog would look like running in a park.
Yeah.
That's what AI is really doing. It's sort of combining everything and creating something new, sort of approximated from all of the other stuff. The Google Genie 3 is really just approximating from a lot of different video games and putting them all into, this is what this video game would look like if it existed, and then you can control it.
Mm-hmm.
Are we all afraid?
It's a little concerning, to say the least.
Let me read a little bit really quick. The problem is, of course, it's not actually doing that. The most viral examples are showing clear rip-offs of existing games, from Fortnite to Dark Souls to Grand Theft Auto. These clips are only 30 to 60 seconds long. They did an entire sprawling AAA game. These kind of generations are aping, could be developed with this tool, but it's not something remotely close to reality. So this is down the line. But you could see the possibility. And that's the thing. Like here's I'm just gonna hit this play. Yeah, this is generated. This is a generated image. This is not Fortnite. Sweet, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, Ross, you were saying. Here's a Dark Souls.
No, it's just
a level that doesn't
I've been
exist in
seeing
Dark
these.
Souls.
Yeah. I I don't know. It's just because it's so early with this kind of thing, like with this specifically, that like, because remember when AI was new to us, like, to like regular people, and I mean, I didn't think it would ever get that good, you know what I mean, or like people would use it in the way they do per se.
Right.
So who knows how? I don't know. Like, I better to think what this is going to look like in like even just 2 years.
Who knows?
Gaming's going to get lame.
Yeah.
Very quickly.
A big topic that could have been our headliner, but I was like, I've got a lot more to say about Jim Lee's comments. But good Lord, man, possibilities are becoming endless. Like then it's gonna become IP control. Like I've seen versions of Mario games you've never seen before, just created out of this new AI program, and you're like, oh no, Nintendo, no. Oh, can I just passingly comment really quickly? We lost Catherine O'Hara.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
It was a bummer. Home Alone
I
star.
don't like that.
Yeah.
Very sad.
Let's see. Shifting on, 1/3 of U.S. video game industry workers were laid off over the last 2 years.
Oh.
This is a sign of a healthy industry.
Very healthy, yes. Yeah.
The thing is that this industry has been notorious for doing stuff like that since forever. Basically, they hire a bunch of people for crunch time, and then they lay them all off.
Yeah, but this is the industry as a whole. This isn't just one company.
Well, right, but I'm wondering how much, since that is a common practice in the industry, how much is the increase? You know what I mean?
This is a third down over the past 2 years from what was before.
Oh, wow.
I mean, we comment constantly about, well, this company fired a bunch of people, and this company fired a bunch of people, and it's like, no, it is a massive problem. across the board. So Star Trek is a big discussion right now. We could go into details, but we're not because none of us is watching bad Star Trek. But one thing I found interesting is if you're not aware, Paramount put Starfleet Academy's first episode on YouTube to a disastrous launch and lack of success. Would you be surprised that they privated that video? You can't watch it anymore. Yeah. You can't watch it anymore.
Go to our
on
paid
YouTube.
service.
That's not a sign that it's doing well. That is a sign that they are embarrassed.
They privated the free episode on YouTube.
Yep. That is we are ashamed of this video. Please stop disliking it.
And man, were they brave not to block the comments.
Yeah, or were they just distracted enough they didn't pay attention?
I know a lot of people online. I know Critical Drinker and Nerd Erotic made a thing about it, and most of the people flooding into the comments were talking about the show from their audience.
Hey.
Poor decisions across the board. There's a huge amount of Avatar fans begging audiences to rewatch Fire and Ash to save the franchise because James Cameron cast doubt on its future. So that's funny.
Oh.
George R. Martin says that
people are finally waking up to how bad it actually is.
it's not. George R. Martin says that the Game of Thrones book ending won't be the same as the HBO series. Is it because everybody hated the ending of the HBO series and you've changed it? And you're afraid to write the book now because you know everybody hates it?
I stop saying that. That's not true. They definitely didn't take what I already had planned and just made it slightly worse. That's not what happened, okay?
Hey, look. Nerdy people love the stuff they love, and they also dump on stuff they hate. I think Game of Thrones sucks, and George R. R. Martin's a hack, but anyway.
Oh.
Whatever.
Very sad.
Oh, a little bit more of Star Trek Academy viewership stuff. So viewership has collapsed so thoroughly, it's not even in the top 10 for Paramount.
Oh. Oh my.
My gosh.
That's
On their own channel, and it's not even in the top 10.
Yeah.
oofy. That's rough.
To give you ideas of what are beating out Star Trek Academy in the top 10 of Paramount shows are things like Sabrina the Teenage Witch, NCIS.
This one or the new one that's terrible?
NCIS, SpongeBob.
Oh.
And this is Sabrina the reruns, I believe, Jason.
Yeah.
SpongeBob is beating it out, and so is King of Queens. That's right, the Kevin James vehicle.
Oh, that show that just
that
used to be on in the dead hours of the day? Okay.
Yeah, here's our list
the
of
fact that
top 10
SpongeBob is more
Paramount.
popular than Star Trek.
Great. It's a good sign.
That's right. More people are watching reruns of King of Queens than Star Trek Academy.
Fucking yikes. Good God.
Does it make you
Things
feel
are going
good
well.
that you've made a good show? And you know what the conclusion is? Dumping on the fans. That's probably what they're going to do.
Of course it is.
Oh,
They
yeah.
cannot take responsibility for their own actions. They have to blame somebody else. Rather than look at themselves and say, you know what? This is our bad. We'll do better next time. It's all your fault. You didn't watch the show. Oh my gosh. What a bunch of
Tried and true.
Talking about stuff that is working, Claire Obscure Expedition 33 sets the world record for Game of the Year awards, surpassing Elden Ring.
Wow.
Yep.
Good for them.
That is
Good for those
impressive.
Frenchies.
Way to go, yeah.
Good for those Frenchies.
Those frogs deserve it.
Does someone say, hey, I'm interested in more layoffs? Well, I got more for you. No, not that one. Wait. This one. AGBO Studios have shed 15% of their staff. Okay, you might go, who? This is the Russo Brothers studio. They're part of producing the Avengers.
Oh,
Oh.
wow.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. You know, the big giant movie that's coming out soon. Well, this studio was one of the production studios involved with it because it's the Russo brothers production studio. Well, they fired 15% of their staff.
Also, aren't they making 2 movies kind of back to back?
Yes, and there's actually a rumor. I don't like to bring up rumors because we can't confirm these things. There is a rumor that Secret War, the second movie, is going to be a 2-part. So
that's a good sign then that you're laying everybody off before that's done. That's good.
Mm-hmm. And you know what movie everybody was hyped for there, Ross?
What one?
You know the movie everybody was hyped for, that everybody was excited for? A movie called Hopper. You want to know something? It is slated to perform out the gate worse than Elio.
Oh.
That's right. Elio did about 20 million in its first opening weekend. Hoppers is looking like a 15 to 18 million.
Oh my God. Rhett, I'm not going to lie. When you said Hopper, I literally thought of Looper, and I was like, what, are they re-releasing it? And then I remembered now I remember.
I can honestly say there isn't a movie in the pipeline right now. Well, what I should say is, from the movies that I've seen in the pipeline, there isn't a single one I'm looking forward to. But
oh, come on! You don't want some Mandalorian and Grogu?
No.
More people have seen the trailer for He-Man than Mandalorian Grogu in its entire run up to this point than He-Man has beat it in 2 days.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah. That Mandalorian Grogu is going to save Star Wars, by the way.
It's going to save it. We're saved.
All right. So everybody, Xbox is doing really badly.
Oh.
It's been doing very badly for some time, and after the price increases and the increase of Game Pass and stuff, there's been a plummet in the last few quarters for revenue for Xbox, to the point where in Q2 2026 earnings is going to be down 32% year over year.
Oh.
So apparently, jacking up the price of everything was a great idea, Microsoft. Way to go.
They did it.
Yeah. Things are going bad for Xbox. And this is coming from somebody who likes Xbox, especially who likes the current Xbox console.
Yeah.
You need games to win. And guess what? Your games have kind of been bad. Your exclusive games have been bad. Everybody keeps acting like exclusives aren't that big a deal. These are console sellers. And Starfield just didn't do it for us. It is sad. This feels like the end of Dreamcast from my end. Because I was there for the end of the Dreamcast, where it's like, oh, I love the Dreamcast, and you just hear it's getting discontinued. You're like, oh, I owned every Sega console up to the Dreamcast, and then it's like, this is the last Sega console? Come on. No, now I'm not saying Xbox is going away, but Microsoft as a company had a bad quarter. I think they were down 3%, and they blamed it on Xbox.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a bad sign.
And who knows what the future holds for this company at this point? Just dumping the last few quarters because, hey, people could see it in the stars. They could see the rising prices and the lack of exclusivity, and PlayStation was already winning, so let's just run to PlayStation. Man, you really fumbled this, Microsoft.
Bad.
Really, really bad.
Oh, Jesus.
I
don't know, because I think about this, and it's like, this is like the last American standing in the industry trying to hold it down, and they just keep fumbling it hard.
To give you an idea, the last time Xbox hardware revenue was doing better than the year before it was in December of 2023, and it did better than the year before it by 3%, a whopping 3% over the holiday the year before. Every year for the past how many years now, the console's been selling worse than the year before.
Oh, that's really. That's not good. Holy shit.
It's almost like they don't know what to do.
Oh, no.
Ross, you're going to have to be a fan of Japanese consoles in the future.
Yeah, I guess.
Nintendo, who's going to treat you like a criminal and make
I was gonna
everything
say.
a DRM disc or whatever.
It's like I either go. It's like I'm a child of divorce, you know.
Yeah.
Or like I have to like my parent died and I have to go live with either the aunt, who treats me like I'm always trying to steal out of her like her purse, or I go to the uncle who's like a little bit more fun, but is a bit of a ponce and has nothing in the cupboards.
No.
Like, great.
He has a lot of debt
fun.
and he buys you fancy things, but they're all bad.
Yeah, it's like none of it's very good.
And you're like, no, I want to stay with Xbox. And it's like, yeah, well, they've been really negligent. Child Protective Services are showing up.
really
and
bad.
they have a chart where you're losing weight every year.
Oh, Lord.
Lack of nutrition in this household. Starfield, in my opinion, Starfield was what if it was a banger, it would have saved the console, and it was not. In my opinion, Starfield was the big failure on their end.
Yeah.
That was the big Bethesda game. Oh
Yeah, and it did terrible.
well, if you want a little bit more depressing Microsoft news,
Oh, good.
guess what Xbox is blaming?
What?
Fans?
Call of Duty. That's right. The
Oh,
failure of
my
Call of
God.
Duty, Xbox is blaming for their slump, not the increased prices or the increase of Game Pass in price. It was the failure of Call of Duty that's being blamed, and its flop.
Cool. Good job. Yeah, that's it. That's the problem.
Yeah, and to be fair,
You know,
Black
it's
Ops
that game
7
that is on-
sucks.
Sure. But, like, that game's on everyone else's console, too. So...
Well, but yeah, they do own Activision.
Yeah, but, like, that should be separate from the... Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that
No, it's Cope, sure.
Yeah, like sure, you own it. That's a bummer that this division of your gaming division didn't make money, but like your consoles still aren't selling. Like maybe it's something in how you're handling all this. I don't know. Just a thought.
Thinking out loud.
What dickheads. Jesus Lord. Absolute morons.
Hey, who here wants more depressing news?
Oh, me?
Amazon is laying off 16,000 people.
Holy crap.
Uh-oh.
Yep.
Oh.
Big tech continues to
Great.
wrestle with massive layoffs, most recently with Amazon's announcement to slash 16,000 jobs. Yep.
Oh, God. Well, that's a good sign.
I'm sorry,
way to
people
go.
at Amazon who have jobs.
It's sad, real sad.
Yeah. A little bit of news really quickly. We have our new CEO at Nintendo of America, who's a lady, and everybody's blaming her for the fact that apparently they've added non-binary choices to the gender option and sex relationships with Tomodachi Life on the Switch 2.
Oh.
Which is receiving a lot of negative feedback. And look, if you fall into that sexual identity, I understand that you want the representation, but then also people who don't like it. And I don't know, it signals to people who are negative reception to that the direction the company is going, and I would consider the Switch 2 going in a poor direction, despite the fact apparently the sales are good. Apparently.
Yeah, they seem to be okay. I think they've kind of leveled off, though. But I mean, I don't know. I guess it is really early in its life for it to be leveling off. But
yeah, people are taking this as a sign that it's her.
Yeah.
It's her that's doing it.
I mean, maybe. I don't know, though. It
don't
seems a
know. I
little
mean,
early.
It could be. It could be. I don't know that this would be a CEO level decision.
It can be.
Yeah,
She can just step
Not
in and
say-
intervene and then tell them to change it.
yeah, totally. But I don't know.
That's what I would do.
That's what Ross would do. Ross, how's Highguard doing?
Oh, I hear really well. You know what? Everyone was excited. They were bated breath, and they got it. And they, yeah, no, it's shit. Apparently, it's really bad.
Do you know much about Highguard?
I just remember it's like a hero shooter, right?
These
with a
are
lot of weird aspects to it.
These are former Apex Legends people
Oh dear.
who left to
Okay.
make a game that's a lot like Apex Legends, but with like swords and stuff.
Oh.
Okay.
And guess what? We already have an Apex Legend at home, and it's better.
Yeah, it's been around for a while now. Really well established.
To quote this article, I'm not sure it could go any other way. What we're talking about essentially is a group of developers who left Apex Legends, despite Apex Legends still being successful, decided to make their own game that is very similar to Apex Legends. I know there are bigger maps and a huge sword and mounts and lots of what if Apex Legends, but sort of changes. But the foundation of a what if Apex Legends but game is making a game that is fundamentally like Apex Legends. Now you might go, oh, this game's doing badly. Jason, in the first 24 hours, they lost 90% of their players.
Holy crap!
Actually, it's
That's not doing
20.
badly.
It was 20 hours, not 24. I'm sorry.
Oh my god.
That's a freaking belly flop from the high dive.
Holy. Oh my god, that is terrifying.
Like the failure
Oh.
of Highguard is so complete that it's almost this massive joke meme of like, good lord, that game collapsed.
I mean,
Yeah,
is that on the
Holy
level
cow.
of like Concord?
I don't know.
I think it could be.
I know Concord just didn't have the no one bought it, as opposed to people who bought it left.
Yeah.
Because I think it peaked
Oh,
at like
God.
97 and it lost like 90% within the first 20 hours.
Yeah, that's bad.
Now, there could be a lot of reasons. I'm not deep into the Highguard drama. According to this article, there are too many games like Highguard for it to
Okay,
actually stand
this-
out or matter.
According to this, Concord achieved a peak of 697 players.
Oh, see,
Cool.
I saw the 97. I thought it was 97, but it was 697. But anyway,
Still horrible.
yeah, no one's
yeah.
playing it. And yeah, you excited for the future of video games?
It looks bright, definitely, for sure. Yeah.
Xbox is collapsing. Highguard, though, I mean, it's just a smaller studio, just crashed and burned. Video games in general just aren't that great. Maybe indie stuff is the stuff that's been standing out. Oh, also, AI might replace all video game development. So,
Good
you know,
news.
look forward to that.
Good news, everyone.
Good lord.
You know, I understand the concern of what AIs can do. AI is, incidentally, exclusively one of those things that only affects basically white collar jobs, like highly educated people with skills. And that's, I guess, the bigger concern is like, look at all that effort you did to get an education and learn a skill and be good at something, only to be replaced. You know what can't be replaced? Guys who are plumbers and really good
Yeah.
at construction and all that sort of thing.
Mhm.
Oh, Lord. Why do you think we're in a dystopian city, punch in the air?
Because I'm angry.
And Ross is shooting civilians.
No, that's not true. You can't prove that.
Well, the thing is, I'm just going to create a sprite of a civilian laying on the ground and you just shooting him.
Don't you dare. He was a criminal. He was coming at me with a knife.
It was a justified shooting.
That's right. I'm gonna sprinkle some crack on his body.
Well, reflections on tonight's topics.
Yeah, apparently, comics has been run by morons for a little while. That's a bummer.
Well, more than a little while, but yes.
I don't know. The
Sorry,
industry is screwed, and the people at the top are monkeys. Yeesh.
What a positive podcast this is.
We're very you know what I'm positive about? That these people are
That the
idiots.
people
That's
that
what
are
I'm
the top are
positive about.
monkeys?
Very positive about that.
Yeah, me too.
I kind of like this level with the screaming by train that distorted a little bit, like it was made by AI, but it wasn't. It's just distorted because of
No.
its speed.
Yeah, that's right. These are facts.
I like the level, though. It's kind of interesting to look at.
Yeah, it looks good. I like it a lot.
I know
Classy.
there's this
Wow.
weird gimmick of we're in a video game discussing things. I found out a long time ago that even when people listen to podcast videos, I guess because we don't have our cameras on, which we may at some point, justify purchasing some if the podcast is successful. But the idea is, I would watch other podcasts, and even when there weren't faces, you would look at the stuff that was moving on the screen or being active, and I was like, oh, we need stuff to look at. Well, there was
Moving things.
you ever see those shorts? Those really bad shorts where it's like it's a little like audio of somebody doing something, but then half of the screen is a mindless like video game like Fortnite or something that they lack so much ability to pay attention that they are listening to the one thing by watching the other guy jump around in Fortnite. And I was
Oh, yeah.
That's a bad sign.
Yeah, we're really not burning our brains out or anything. That's for sure.
So instead of just our Discord icon sitting on the bottom, I was like, you know what? I'm going to give you guys stuff to look at.
It's better.
We're going to get new levels because AI is free because I ain't paying for it. I'm going to use the thing until I run out of my thing and then I have to wait 24 hours to use it again. Good times. Well, it's been a fun podcast. Hopefully you've found some interesting discussion. If you enjoyed it, share it. So look, obviously we're a small podcast. No one listens / watches. If you like it, now there's a reason why people have these diatribes, because obviously the obsession thing. We don't make a living off of this thing, so it's not like there's this desperation to make money.
Yeah.
But we would like to at least grow an audience, and how you grow an audience is people, if you like it, it affects the algorithm, and commenting affects the algorithm, and also subscribing allows you to see the channel and the videos when they show up. So these do actually have beneficial effects. And commentary, see, unlike a lot of channels who are obsessed with their own opinions and don't like when people disagree, you're more than welcome to disagree with points that we made. Obviously, we encourage you to be civil. But oftentimes people see industries differently, or it's funny. You can talk to somebody and be like, actually, I really like the movie that you said was bad. And it's fine. It's super fine.
Yeah.
And in fact,
Tell us
nerddom,
why.
the point of nerddom is disagreeing and arguing about stuff. That's kind of what we do, and get obsessive about the details. But yeah, participate in the community. I was about to do like a stupid like be a member of the DG, but how cringy is that?
Right, couldn't handle it. He hated it.
Well, and then like the community makes up names for their audience, like, oh, you're part of the crew. Oh, calm down. You're listening to a podcast where they talk about current pop culture stuff. Calm down a little bit.
If we get enough people, we have to have a competition to see what name the crew gets.
No, I'm just going to call them whatever I want to, and there's nothing they do about it. Yeah, I'm not gonna.
Get dunked on, nerds.
Well, see, I understand the reasoning for doing that to try and create this community, so that they're all like, oh well, I'm a part of this, and it's like, what are we, 12?
Yes. That is
Yes.
I'm a part of the
That's how the
DG
internet
community.
works.
I want to feel like I belong.
I belong. Guess what? We're friends already. If you listen to this podcast, we're friends, except for Chance, who's super gay.
He's very homosexual. That's
I'm
what
gonna-
I've heard.
I'm going to continue to gaslight that guy. I sent him a meme on Instagram that was like, it was like a street corner, on the street corner, the sign that said gay, and I was like, I went by here and a lot of people said that they knew you. Because that's what I do.
They
to
say they see you
Chance.
around here a lot.
Yeah, I sent him this really complex like math problem, and it's like, if you can't solve this, you're gay.
That's what that's just a standard thing. You know?
He responded with 20. Here's the problem. I don't know if that's correct.
We too are in fact gay.
Yeah. There are better stories out there. If you don't like the comics, guess what? There are old comics you can find, and manga's there. There's some fun. One thing I find with manga that's the biggest problem with that form from Japan is they're really good out the gate, and then the long-term storytelling always usually falls apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's stuff I like where you'll go down, like, it's like, oh, I really like this universe, and then you'll find out, like, later on in the manga just really, really stupid. And that happens way too often. Like, their long-term planning gets really poor.
Yeah.
That was a problem with Beastars. That was a problem with quite a few of them. Oh, before we get out of here, there was something I was going to comment on. Oh, it's escaping me. Podcast, everybody.
Podcast.
Oh, where's my outro?
If you like the show, follow Rhett, Jason, Ross, and Silver, the world's most lethally stupid internet personalities, on Twitter at DG Podcast or on Instagram at Distracted Gamers. If you liked or hated what you heard here today, you can email them at thedistractedgamers@gmail.com and share your feelings. Not that Jason would care, since he hasn't any, of course.